Hi, this is Billie Beene here with another segment of Truth by Billie Beene. Special report, today's date, February 10, 2023, new. This is my third YouTube channel. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for likes, subscribe, and share on YouTube and Rumble. Episode 506, the U.S. military preps for war with China. Updates on the Turkey-Syria earthquake, what's going on in the New Madrid, Planet X effects from space on Earth, Ukraine, plus. Some of my sources are God and the Bible Patriot subscriber, Jazeera English, Joshua Phillip, BPEarthwatch, Dutchsinse, Pastor Paul Begley, and Mike from around the world, Dr. William Mount, Earthmaster Dabu 77, Real Raw News, Beforeitsnews, Michael Jaco interview of 107, website, Hal Turner, Beforeitsnews, Benjamin Fulford. So let's get started. Okay, we're going to begin with the earthquake information that's going on, some space information. Okay, so let's do a map. So we've got Turkey in this area, Syria, and I understand the U.S. is sending aid to Turkey, but not so much as a piece of bread or a bottle of water for a child in Syria because, you know, the U.S. government has economic sanctions against Syria. So no, can't send first aid, food, and water to the Syrian people. That's going on. Okay, so now I have a Patriot subscriber who lives in Oregon who's saying the mainstream media is doing something because they're coming on with those public announcements. Get ready for earthquakes. And yeah, she's mentioning the Navy dry dock system that had been in Oregon. Yeah, they closed it. They said it was due to seismic activity, but Dr. William Mount said it was due to money. Okay, and I have another Patriot subscriber talking about Turkey. The elites know the pole is shifting and they can't control it. I live in West Virginia and I'm concerned about New Madrid. And she's talking about Zeta Talk, that's on Beforeitsnews, who puts forth some interesting things about the New Madrid area, talking about the Mississippi River will affect various states. Now, when in the New Madrid area, when they had the 3 earthquakes in 3 months in 1811, 1812, it was like December, January, February, they had 3 9.0 earthquakes in the New Madrid area. The Mississippi River actually flowed backward. So yeah, pretty strong. Okay, Earthmaster. Here in the U.S., we have, here's Mexico, Texas, Florida. The New Madrid area is right about here. And we've had, just yesterday, February 9, we had a 3.0 in Tennessee, which Earthmaster says is unusual. So yeah, we're seeing things happen. Okay, now Mike from around the world on Pastor Paul Begley's Thursday night program. We believe Mike works for the NSA. Mike knows stuff. Talking about, we would call this euphemistically Planet X. It means energy coming from space. And he is saying that this recent earthquake event in Turkey was correlated to some of this energy from space coming in, and that we can expect in the next 36 hours, which will be February 10 through 12, we can expect on the Earth 2 large earthquakes and one large volcano to go off. And on February 18, we can expect another wave of space energy to hit the Earth. I'm assuming it will affect us seismically. That'll be 7 times more powerful than the one we just saw, resulting in the Turkey earthquake. So yeah, stay close to God is what I say. Now, we have BPEarthwatch talking about Turkey. The death toll just yesterday, BP's reporting 17,000. We can realistically say today it's probably up to 20,000. Injured, BP was predicting 60, had the number 67,000. We can predict for today probably 100,000. Now, yeah, and so that's going on. We have Dutchsinse. I brought that out yesterday about, and I think I can, I'll have some more information on where you can go to see that particular video. I think it's up on Beforeitsnews, showing that in the Mediterranean Sea, there was some kind of ship sending out pulses of energy, implying or demonstrating that this earthquake could have been precipitated by geoengineering. And so I think that's probably true. But I think that tied in with natural events occurring. Now, Dutch is saying today, on February 10, we had underneath Turkey about 200, very deep, 240 kilometers or about 149 miles. A small earthquake, about a 3-point, but it demonstrates that deep underneath Turkey something's going on, and that correlates with the information I had from God in 2020 about the earth heating from within and magma rising, and that it's all moving west. And that correlates to what I also said. I predicted this would be a huge spread. I was predicting a death toll of 40,000. I'm seeing some estimates now of a predicted death toll in this area of 100,000. So that's going on. We do need to be in prayer for these people and be sending them food and water to both Turkey and Syria and other areas. Now let's move on to China. We have this, China. Okay, we've been hearing a lot about these Chinese balloons. And then we heard, oh, it was not China, it was just the deep state. It was actually a U.S. balloon, not a China balloon. This, I've listened to this and this and that. Okay, my perspective is we heard it came from China, went over Alaska, Canada, came down into the U.S., Missouri, Wyoming, and then it went over all the way to South Carolina, where it was shut down on the in the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, so now this is what I'm getting. There are multiple Chinese balloons. They are from China, and they are something like this. We have a huge balloon that's, I don't know, several 100 feet tall, and they have a payload on them, maybe about 1,000 pounds, and they're carrying GPS. And okay, now what I'm hearing is that they are carrying a payload of warheads or equipment that can cause an EMP. Now, I heard the most reasonable explanation for why would, and then I've heard, oh, China wouldn't be using balloons because they have satellites. So I heard the most reasonable explanation for the use of balloons by China over the U.S., but we know they're over also Hawaii and Guam and South America and other locations around the world. So this explanation came from 107. A recent interview he had like yesterday with Michael Jaco, that the reason to use the balloons is they can get much closer to the ground to penetrate the ground and get a more accurate seismic drawing or information that they could use in the future in the event of an EMP or selected frequency geoengineering to certain areas based on the specific seismic layering and strata in that area. This to me makes sense for the use of balloons. Now, why did the U.S. military not shoot it down earlier? Were they simply given a stand down order? But the U.S. military and the Canadian military, were they given stand down orders by their government who are deep state controlled? Or was there a legitimate military reason for not firing upon them? I suspect the latter. I suspect that these balloons were used to gain additional information about the ground area, and this would have been Alaska, Canada, and the U.S. That could be used in the future to propagate geoengineering and EMP to selected areas. And I believe the reason the Canadian military and the U.S. military didn't shoot it down earlier is because they did not know, and they had maybe chatter or some evidence that there might be a nuclear warhead on it. And I'm not discounting that. There could be some evidence for that also. So, Chinese balloons. Now, we have this. We have Joshua Phillip. He's, I believe, an expert on what's going on in China. Epoch News, and he did an interview with an expert in China. I'll link that for you. And talking about the C virus deaths that have been going on in China since 2020, and stating again that there are long lines to both hospitals and crematoriums, and that there is some type of new wave of energy. I submit to you, this is not my research and the research of other people into the C virus, is that it wasn't really the C virus. It could have been the other circumstances that were having an impact upon the health of people. Now, what we don't know inside China is exactly what's going on. But we are getting credible reports of long lines of people to get in hospitals and long lines of people taking their passed away family members to crematoriums. So that's going on. And this expert is saying in the last 2 months, December and January, there have been thousands of deaths inside China, and it's not related to the C virus. So that's going on. Now, 107 also brought out this information. He said several weeks ago, inside China, the banks closed and people could not get money out of the bank and the ATMs were not working. So that's going on. Now we have this. Multiple reports I have from Hal Turner, Dabu 77, but other reports that over Hawaii we had, so Hawaii would be out here in the Pacific. It was Chinese satellites, could be seen and determined. These were Chinese satellites over Hawaii, putting down green laser lights onto Hawaii. Purpose is unknown. I submit to you these green laser lights could be part of this EMP plan, and they could be also using the green laser lights to go down to Hawaii and bounce back to do more seismic mapping of their volcanoes and other vulnerable areas in Hawaii. So that's going on. Now we have this. And we have Hal Turner talking about he had received intel, and inside the U.S. military, they have been directed to get the, for certain troops to begin to amass them in one area. Part of the process is also to make sure that they have contact information for each individual. Each individual has written their will, and a commenter on Hal Turner's site said, yes, I had the same job in the past when the U.S. went to Mogadishu. The troops that you're sending out, you want to be sure you have contact information and they have completed their wills. And the reason for this amassing and the collecting of the contact information and writing of the wills is that this four-star general put this out. China-Taiwan war is a go in 6 months. So that's going on. Now, we have this. We have Mike from around the world. Yeah, I gave that information about the earthquakes. 2 volcanoes, 2 large earthquakes, and 1 large volcano going off in 36 hours. All right. So, when we hear this or that, it's good to remember God is in charge, and he's definitely on the move. So, I don't think, we'll see, but I don't foresee a war with China. All right, we have real raw news. Now, this has to do with government, and we heard recently, supposedly, a State of the Union by JB, and I said I didn't know the name of the actor that was playing him now. Well, Real Raw News is putting it out. It's Arthur Roberts, and the pantomime, the theater we saw with the State of the Union was actually at a studio, and that was at, I believe, Fort McPherson in Atlanta, Georgia. And Real Raw News put this out, based on information from the U.S. Military Cyber Command. At least 30% of the individuals you saw on the TV channel, State of the Union, were actors, clones, doubles, and some were just CGI, computer-generated images. The row of generals you saw, including Miley and Berger, were holograph CGI. So that's going on. And the Speaker of the House was a clone. So, as I said, it's good to know what is real and what is not real. And now we have this regarding the U.S. government. We had that report put out by the prize-winning journalist Seymour Hersh about the U.S., Norway, and Germany blowing up the Russian pipeline Nord Stream N1, N2. I covered that in detail in my last video. All right. Now, this is coming out from War News 24/7, who's making it known globally. And some of the individuals involved were Jake Sullivan, Victoria Nuland. Jake Sullivan is the National Security Advisor to JB, the actor. Victoria Nuland is an undersecretary in the State Department. And we have the Secretary of State, Blinken. And he was also stopped from his trip to China by the China balloon. So that was something else. Now, it's coming out that the explosive set on the N1, N2 Russian pipelines, and Dr. William Mount is also corroborating this information from War News. They were not special forces, because when special forces acts, a report has to be given to Congress. Instead, they used Navy divers who set the explosives in June of 2022 during the NATO Baltops 22 training exercise. And we have this, it was to destroy the cheap natural gas going to Europe, because one of the deep state's objectives of this Ukraine situation is to destroy the economy and the military of the United States of America, also Germany and all of Europe, and take out 2 genetic lines in Ukraine at the same time. So we have this. We had also the director of the CIA was involved in the blowing up of the Russian pipelines, Burns. And we had Jake Sullivan headed up a team in 2022 to come up with this plan to blow up the pipeline. And CIA Director William Burns participated. Also, the Joint Staff Generals in the military, that would be the shadow part of the military. State Department, Treasury, Norway participated, and Germany participated. So the pipeline was located, here is Denmark, here's Germany, here's Russia. So the pipeline was coming into Germany. There was a Denmark island, Bornholm, Bornholm, that was 1,000 kilometers away from the pipeline that rested on the seabed that was 80 meters deep. So then they set it down, set the explosives down, and then they attached to the explosives a package that could be detonated later by a sonar buoy drop that would put out a certain frequency. That happened on September 26, 2022, and was dropped by Norway. So War News 24/7 is coming out with this information. It's going global. And of course, the actor Arthur Roberts, playing the role of JB, says, oh no, the U.S. knew nothing about it. Okay, Jud Napalitano, talking about the pipeline explosion. Yes. And he brought this out, which is, I had documented in September 27, September 28, when I did the initial reports about the pipeline blow up, that a video had come out with Victoria Nuland, like in 2022, saying, oh, that into Russian pipeline will never be allowed to operate. And then she may have said that in 2021. And then I believe the JB actor in July of 2022 said, the into Russian pipeline will never be allowed to operate. So we can see there's a setup here, and that's been going on. So now let's talk about some things affecting the economy. I have a Patriot subscriber who says, I believe there's going to be another cargo ship that's going to get stuck, and that is referring to the Evergreen container ship that got stuck in the Suez Canal and had trafficking of different things on it. Special Forces took that one out. Okay, and my Patriot subscribers know a lot of stuff, so I look for that too. Okay, we have Benjamin Fulford is a Canadian journalist who's lived for decades in Japan, has contacts with elite Asian families, knows a lot of stuff. And he's talking about the economy. And this would be one of the triggers, and I brought that out in Play It Again, Sam, because we had seen that history repeats itself, and that was the bringing on of Nasara Jassara, a gold-silver-backed economy, and we saw that was one of the reasons President Kennedy was assassinated. That was why 9/11 happened, and now we're seeing world events swirling to keep us from going on a gold and silver-backed economy. But I believe it's going to come to fruition. We have the White Hats, who certainly have been organized since the assassination of President Kennedy in 1963, but there are some elements who say the basis for this organization could go all the way back to the assassination of President Lincoln. So yeah, so we have the White Hats, we have the Space Force, but most importantly, we have God. And I believe God is saying the cup of iniquity is full. All this sin upon the earth, and now we have sons and daughters of God who were selected by God to be here on earth at this point in time to say, bring it, Father, bring us justice. I believe we're going to see, as Benjamin Fulford has described, a golden age. And we are entering into a harvest time for both the gospel of Jesus Christ, but also a harvest time for all peoples upon the earth to finally be free from the evil that's upon this earth. Okay, so he's talking about January 31. The U.S. government could go into default, as we have others saying by, I believe that's June of 23. And Benjamin is saying that January 31 of the government, U.S. government, technically in default, didn't make their debt payment. Now we know, and I've explained, that our money from the U.S. goes over to London. That's part of the deep state. And then it comes back to the U.S. government to be loaned. This is all the taxpayer money, and the money we, the people, pay to the government goes to London, comes back in the form of a loan. We don't technically owe all these trillions of dollars. No. But that's the way the banking system is set up. Okay, so supposedly in default, January 31. They had an extension to February 13. And, yeah, that was what I was saying about the money system. Play it again, Sam, that I was just explaining. So Benjamin Fulford is also correlating this, like what happened 9/11? What happened at Fukushima, and what happened in January 2020 when we had that worldwide bioweapon released upon all people. Okay, same thing to stop. The New World Order wants to maintain their control of money. Now, I would like to bring this out. Canada. Also, another thing by the deep state, according to Dr. William Mount, Vancouver. Dr. William Mount says that there's a large firecracker buried there. So the deep state, would they put off a nuke to prevent the Nasara Jazeera going in place? You bet. So Dr. William Mount is putting this out. So once information is put out, it doesn't happen. So we have this. Benjamin Fulford is making logical points because we can see, we know there have been raids on the JB properties recently, finding classified information. We saw that happen. Now, Benjamin Fulford is saying the seats, primary power places, physical places, geographic places for the New World Order is Tel Aviv, Israel, and Geneva, Lake Geneva in Switzerland. And we have this. He is bringing out that in the U.S., we have, here's California, Texas, Florida. He's also bringing this out. We have Russian warships, and I put out that information that have 160 nuclear warheads. I believe that was the Admiral Gorshkov Russian ship near Bermuda. I put that out that they launched a practice launch, and they could also cause an EMP attack. But I understand off the West Coast we have Chinese ships. So that's going on too. Now we have to bear in mind we've got black hats and white hats. So in the white hats we do have Russia and China, but part of China. We have Chairman Z, he's white hat, but we've also got the CCP operating. So some have put forth that these Chinese ships and Russian ships could actually be in place to control the deep state, who would absolutely drop nukes on the United States so they could maintain control. Absolutely. Now, Benjamin Fulford is talking about the real Donald Trump and the fake one. The fake one is the one who was pushing the farmer with the arm, and this is new to me, the fake one was also the one who said he was going to run in 2024. And Benjamin Fulford makes the point, why would President Trump have to run in 2024? He still, is a valid president. Now we have this. Yes, and recently with those Chinese balloons, the Rockefeller agent, Blinken, was stopped from going to China to beg for money. So yeah, that's going on. Now, Benjamin Fulford is talking about, that recent attack on Iran that we attributed to Israel also involved these other countries, Azerbaijan and Ukraine. And Benjamin Fulford is saying in the future, North and South Korea will unite. That correlates to a prophecy by the late prophet Kim Clement. And Benjamin Fulford is saying in Japan, they are cleaning the deep state. And one way we can tell this is true because Japan is not buying U.S. treasuries. They are selling their U.S. treasuries. And when they do that, it takes the value of their currency down. So we can see Japan is serious about separating from the deep state. And we have this. Benjamin Fulford believes by February 13, that was the date, next date for the deep state to make a payment from the U.S. government, that they're not going to be able to make the payment and they may cause some type of event, maybe a bank bail-in where they go after our bank accounts to steal our money, or maybe drop a nuke somewhere in the U.S. Yeah, so that's going on. Now this is interesting, and I'll explain this to you about the Brunson case. Brunson. So this is a legal filing, and this is versus the U.S. government, and it has to do with the 2020 event, and we had Congress, and that would have been the House, which is about 435 people, and the Senate, which is about 100 people, voting in January of 2021 to ignore the 100, it was some House members and some senators who said there's evidence this 2020 event might not have been right. But what a number of the House and Senate did was ignore that, ignore the Constitution, which would have required them to wait 10 days and do an investigation. And then they put in JB, the actor puppet. Now, in the course of this filing, and it's going to court, and it's come before the Supreme Court, well, it's going to have another hearing on February 17. We had these members of both the House and the Senate saying the Constitution does not apply to us. Okay, I've given this some thought. I want to put this out. Technically, they could be correct because the Constitution applies to people who are put in place by the people. If you have people who are just seat warmers, who are there because they had a lot of money to pay the counters, technically, this is probably correct. The Constitution does not apply to them because they do not represent the people. So that's going on. Another hearing, February 17. Now, let's move on to, I had a Patriot subscriber from South Africa who said she traveled extensively in the Middle East about 25 years ago, and she's very affected by the events that are going on in Turkey and Syria and Egypt and all these other, Lebanon and Israel, all these areas affected by the recent earthquakes, because she traveled there, she knows the people. So that's going on. But she had also brought out several times about the state of the power grid in South Africa. So we have Africa. Here's the U.S., South Africa, in this area, about the power grid. Now, this comes out from Jazeera English, who's talking about the power grid in South Africa and noting that there are many blackouts daily and electric cuts. Now, I looked at this information. At the same time that they're cutting power here, they're selling it to Namibia and Soto. I submit to you, this is a new world order situation, and what's the objective? Well, the farmers in that area were interviewed. They're going broke because they had like 7 or 8 years of geoengineered drought. Now they can farm, but they don't have enough energy to run their machines. So this correlates with the New World Order objective of causing a global food shortage. So that's going on. And now we have this, Ukraine. So I had a Patriot subscriber. All right, that's right. Ukraine, so we have Russia. We have Ukraine now. We have Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia, Kherson, Crimea. We have Turkey down here. All right. Is bringing this out. In 1991, when the Soviet Union split apart, each nation state had to submit legal papers, I believe that was to the UN, that stated what their borders were. Ukraine did not submit that paperwork. So technically, to this day, Ukraine legally still belongs to Russia. So yeah, I had a Patriot subscriber who's bringing this up. Okay, so we have this going on. We have Bakhmut, which we understand is surrounded. We have things going on up here in Kharkov and in this area. So we have, now this is new. This Ukraine, their government this week will pass a law that allows NATO troops to come in and fight on their soil. And so Hal Turner's information is, as soon as the NATO troops would go into Ukraine, if such a law was passed, they would be killed by Russia. And so what would happen then? Someone was saying, well, Article 5, but Ukraine is not a NATO nation. So that would not apply, even if the Ukraine government said, oh, NATO can come and fight on our soil. That isn't the way the NATO is set up with their language. Okay. And so we have this. We have, so Hal Turner is also bringing this out about the subs on the coast of the United States, that they have hypersonic missiles. Okay, this is what Russia has said. If Ukraine, if NATO comes in and these long-range weapons are used on Crimea or inside Russia, then Russia is going to bomb inside the U.S. That'll be military objectives, and they're going to use hypersonic missiles, and they already have off of our east coast and just past Bermuda, that Admiral Gorshhoff, a warship. So that's going on. And they would also bomb, I believe it was UK, England. Yeah. So we have this from Steve Quayle's site, The Express. Yeah. So we have Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Kaliningrad is a Russian enclave. But we have here in Estonia roughly 80 miles to the Russian border. We have Kharkov, Belarus. Up here we have Russia. Russia goes around Belarus. So right here, 80 miles from the Russian border, or 129 kilometers, we have tens of thousands of NATO troops who are actively practicing crossing the border in minus 12 degrees Celsius weather, which would be about 11 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's going on. And now we have this from Mike from around the world. And recently we saw that unveiling of an underground base, Eagle 44, in Iran. Iran is right here. Mike from around the world says, right along here, we've got 330,000 Iran troops, and we've got 500,000 Russian troops. They're preparing. Now, in the past, I've also put out, we also have Chinese and North Korean troops who are in underground bases. So, that's going on. All right. So now, a short prayer. This is based on the King James and Passion Translation, Psalm 67:68, and the name of it is, O God, judge us righteously. Father, arise with your awesome power. Our enemies, these God haters, will scatter. Vaporize them as smoke. Melt them as wax in fire. Let your people, Father, be radiant with joy. Shine your face upon us as we rejoice in the presence of our God. And we say thank you, Father, and God the Father, the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Father, the Holy Spirit, our God. Amen. And I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there. Continue to pray. God is in charge, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.